What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Monday, April 10th, 2023. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host, Phil. Phil, it's the first time of the year that I was able to get outside and start doing some yard work. And if those of you that listen to the December draft that we have for our BSC, you know that I am a weird one, and I drafted snowblowing. I also enjoy doing some yard work.
It's not it's weather dependent for sure. Like if it's, I don't know, at the end of the day, it's very weather dependent. Like end of the day, in the middle of summer or like August, and it's 97 out or something, and you got to go mow the lawn. Even though my lawn's pretty small, I still don't really want to do it, especially if I'm like coming home from work and it's more labor on top of the physical labor job I already do. Like that sounds miserable. But today I was also outside. We were working on a new garden that we're trying to do this year, so it was all right. It wasn't bad. We were out there for a little bit, got some yard work in, got some sun in, and it was all right. It really wasn't bad. So I agree. I think if the atmosphere is correct, then yard work isn't bad. I don't mind a little outdoor physical labor in the sun. It's not bad.
I don't want to go on a whole gardening tangent, but are you talking veggie garden or like a flower garden?
No, we're doing a veggie garden in the backyard. We flipped over some grass and we put some new soil and stuff on it. We're doing a raised garden bed in the back. The key. Yep. So we're trying veggies this year, and if it goes well, which we're obviously testing a lot of things out, but if it goes well, we'll expand it a little bit further and make it a little bigger for next season. But a lot of testing and stuff, with the very early aspect of getting the entire thing set up happened today, and it went pretty smoothly.
What are we talking? We talking like tomatoes, the basics, or are you going to experiment a little?
I think we have a little bit of everything. We got your peppers, your tomatoes, I think zucchini, cucumber, lettuce.
Okay.
We're a lot of options out there.
I like it. And then if you expand, you can get a little bit more crazy. So if anybody else out there is a crazy vegetable gardener like Phil is, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Sports Collective and on Twitter at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com and check for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. I don't think I say it enough, but we are also on YouTube. We don't have our beautiful faces there yet because we're still faces for radio, but eventually we'll be video as well. So Phil, we'll dive into the Sabres first. Thursday versus Detroit. They were playing as we were recording. I believe they were up 4-2 or something like that when we were recording. Well, they finished off the win, but in much more stressful situations. They won 7-6 in a shootout. Cousins had 2. Tage, Yoki, Zemgus, and Greenway all finished in with 1. Levi started once again, 26 of 32 save shots were 36-32 in favor of the Sabres. And then flash forward to Saturday versus Carolina. They won 4-3 in a major upset and a must-win situation because all the other teams ahead of them also won. If they would have lost, they would have been eliminated, but they're still alive. So goals by Middlestad. He had 2 of them. Tage and Darlene chipped in 1 each. Levi, 31 of 34 saves. Shots were 34-30 in favor of the Canes, and the record sits with 4 games left, 39, 32, and 7.
So I think at this point we're just really hoping for 40 wins.
That's what I'm rooting for.
Just get that 40 win mark. I mean, again, we'll say it throughout this episode as we're talking about them, but this is already more than we could have hoped for this team, as they're still alive in the last week of play with 4 games left. That is an extremely successful season for this team, especially given the random injuries they've had, the goaltending carousel that they are going through. So to kind of go through everything they've gone through and still be in the hunt with, a week left, I think it's really impressive. That Detroit game, what a game, I guess. Very strange. A lot of goals from both teams. Obviously, when you're 6-6 headed into overtime and you win in a shootout, a lot's going on, a lot of up and down, very sloppy by the defense, but luckily the offense that has been there all season was able to keep them in it. One thing I think the Sabres need to work on is shootouts. They seem not good at them. I know Quinn seems like he's youthful and has incredible moves, and actually seems like he knows what he's doing. Tuck looked incredible in his goal, just kind of being very casual that he is. But I think overall, we've seen in the shootouts that the team is not all that good at scoring in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, this was also a game where I mean, every game like here is must wins, but I think they were more self-inflicted wounds in this one. And you see the 7-6 score, but in my count, Levi only should have been credited for 1 against in that one, and it was the 6th and tying goal. I don't know how he missed it. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like a knuckle puck that you see in Mighty Ducks, but it seemed like he just whiffed on that one. The other 5, it seemed like it was a breakdown from the offense. I mean, the 5th one, I don't know what Lyubushkin was doing. He just pretty much passed it along the boards and couldn't get it out. In a 6-4 game, just get the puck out and live to fight another day. And I think that's both of these games, both the Carolina and the Detroit game, I think both of these are statement wins for a team that, you know, last year when they went on this giant run, we were saying, okay, let's see them do this when the games actually matter. Now they're actually doing it. They're 5-1-1 in their last 7 games after that massive beating they took from Boston that one time. They're winning games when the pressure's on, and they're doing it in strange ways where, yes, they had to go to overtime in a shootout versus a team that, you know, they were ahead 6-4 and 4-2, but they completed the win. And then the Carolina game, that's a game that you're going against a team that's still trying to battle for that number 1 seed in that division, and you took them down. And I think this is a testament, back-to-back wins for a team that going into the final week of the season is still alive.
Yeah, the Carolina game is massive. I mean, Carolina is still obviously fighting for something themselves, so they have playoff positioning they're fighting for. That's not one that they want to lose at all. I mean, at the same time, I'm sure dashing the Sabres' hopes of any kind of playoff run would have been something they would love to do. There's a bit of bad blood between those two teams. So to win that one the way they did, I thought they played extremely well in that game. It was pretty even for the most part, but they were down multiple times in that game, and to be able to fight through that, you know, playing away, not give up, and find a way to win was really impressive. I mean, it's a young team fighting to stay alive, but Carolina is very good, primed for hopefully not a deep playoff run, but they have the ability to make one if they want to. And just seeing the way that the Sabres were able to battle in that game in a must-win situation, realistically for both teams, it was really impressive. And again, Levi he seems like possibly the most unlucky goalie to ever start a career. I mean, even in this game, I went back recently and watched all 3 goals against. I don't think any of them were against him again. The ones he's giving up are just very unfortunate, either random kind of bounces. Like in this one, I think there was a pass across that got stopped at the defender, but it ended up going right back to the offensive player as Levi's already pushing over, trying to make the save on the pass across that got passed right back to him and they score. In Detroit, the one off power that just, you know, goes off your defender and in. I mean, there's just so many fluky and freak goals that have been happening that we haven't really seen a ton of all season, or we have seen them, and because it's Levi, we're paying a little bit closer attention to what he's letting in versus some of the other goalies. But for the most part, like you said, there was only one really in that Detroit game. I didn't have any in this Carolina game that really should have been saved. They were mainly defensive breakdowns. So for the most part, I think he's playing really, really well in his extremely early start and giving this team a chance to win.
Yeah, the biggest thing I've noticed is I know Tage Thompson has been fighting what seems to be a rib injury. I know they're just saying upper body, but it's nice to see him still being able to produce. That Florida game, he just didn't look right whatsoever. He looked like he was in pain. They were put him down to that 4th line, running it with Zemgus Girgensson and Okposo for a while, but seeing him move down to that 2nd line, you see the rookies moving down to the 3rd line with Tage Thompson, moving Middlestate up to the top line, and Tage and Cousins. Tage and Cousins have a really, really nice connection. They seem to, they haven't played much besides the power play all season long. Cousins been with the 2 rookies, Tage has been on the top line, so why would they really interact? But they've just have that instant connection, and you saw it in these 2 games where, you know, that one that I remember, the Carolina game-winning goal by Tage Thompson. Cousins knew exactly where he was streaking across the ice and fed him perfectly. That connection is great, and it's nice to see that Cousins can produce. He's just going to be even better next year when he's got 2 sophomores on his wing if they keep that line together. He's played 80% of the season with 2 rookies on his wing, and he's up over 60 points? Unbelievable. 30 goal scorer, 31 goal scorer. The second one is Middlestate on that top line. He might not be this flashy goal scorer that everybody thought he might have been coming out of college and into the pros here. But my God, he's a playmaker. He is, I think, the 5th or the 4th most assists by a player during this drought. That's unbelievable. I mean, last year, before Tage took over that center role, he was supposed to be in that center role before he got hurt. You're kind of seeing now that he has that confidence, now that he's healthy, now that he's playing with legit players, he himself is a legit player, and I have him marked down for either a third-line winger or the third-line center next year on this team.
Yeah, I think this opportunity, we'll call it that because for the most part, this is a developing team more than anything. I think the opportunity of Middlestat playing on the top line and kind of showing what he can do on that top line and showing that, you know, like again, we saw that a long time ago when him and Olofsson were on the same line and they both looked absolutely terrible early on in the season, and you and I both kind of left Middlestat and Olofsson for dead. And then Middlestat has had this humongous revival, and Granato, give him credit for even throwing him on the top line and giving him the chance. I think before the injury happened, he was already playing quite well, so I think he's earned that opportunity. It wasn't just kind of a stab in the dark, but at the same time, he's really flourished in that role, like you said, and just the little things he's doing. Like you said, he might not be that flashy guy, but he is a very gritty, kind of turning into a little bit of a power forward who also can make a lot of plays. What did you say?
You can't get that puck off his stick either.
And like the way he fights for pucks and battles down low, and just he's just showing a different side of his game that I don't think we've seen as much before, and it's something that he's just developed into more of a gritty kind of power forward than that flashy kind of guy. And maybe that's the adjustment he's made in his game. Maybe he went away from trying to be someone who makes moves like a Quinn or uses that speed, and he's gone into more of a physical role player, and it's worked out extremely well for him. And I think just for the Sabres to be able to see what he can truly offer this team, I think is really big for the team moving forward. Like you said, even if he gets pushed, I would rather see him on the second line because he's, you know, contributing so well. But if he does get pushed to the third line, if they can put productive pieces around him, which it looks like they might be able to next year with some of these pieces, and we'll see what happens in the offseason. But if they can put him with solid line mates, it looks like he can be a true contributor to this team. And if anyone did get injured, he can pop right up and step up in a big way.
Yeah, the only other thing I want to mention about these two games, and then if there's anything else you want to add, but the Jeff Skinner incident after in the Detroit game after the Jokiharju goal, that is why you have a player besides the points. He just adds that extra bit of uniqueness to this team. They don't have another guy like Jeff Skinner on the team who's just that pest that just annoys the heck out of the other team. That alone gave the Buffalo Sabres a 4-minute power play, which they scored one on. And I think it was at the 2:01 mark, so they got the whole second 2 minutes power play on that one. But him just, raising his hands, being under the skin of Detroit and seeing how ticked off they were that whole time. All he did was just raise up his hands. I'm sure he was chirping the whole time. I'm guaranteeing, because it's Jeff Skinner, the same one that makes the Between the Two Stalls video. That's the same guy on the ice that's just chirping nonstop. But I love that in him. And going into next year, and I guess I can transition to my last point here. Going into next year, I'm so interested to see what happens in the offseason with this team, because there's a few guys, Jost, there's Okposo, there's Gergensen, Hinostroza's out the door. A lot of these guys have the final year of their contract coming up. It'll be interesting to see who they bring back and what new players are coming in, because I can see there's 5 or 6, possibly 6, more like 5 forwards and maybe 2 defense roles still open, and then the backup goalie, who's that going to be? So there's not going to be a ton of changeover, because you have the main pieces and the main players that are going to lead you to hopefully the playoffs and further on down the road. But there's some pieces that you can add to it, and I'm hoping they get more of a bigger bully, not a fighter, because there's no fighting really left in this league, but more of a guy that the other teams are going to be afraid of, so Jeff Skinner can keep being Jeff Skinner, and there's players behind him that can stick up for him that role, because when Jeff Skinner's playing like that, he's playing top-notch Jeff Skinner hockey. He just needs somebody behind him, rather than just an Alex Tuck who's got the guy in a headlock, to say, hey, just because he's chirping, you're going to have to deal with me if you go after that guy.
Yeah, and speaking, there's 2 more points. One, the goals that the Sabres were able to score in these two games and just the
beautiful,
extremely flashy ways. It's something they've done all year this season, but it's something you see from really top teams in the league. They have these flashy, incredible goals. Dahlin skating around two defenders, passing it over to an open Middlestat to bury it. Skinner's incredibly smart soccer kick pass to Middlestat, and then Middlestat was able to bury it. Just some of the goals they're scoring that are just so pretty. It's so much fun to watch this team, and their offense is just a humongous revelation since Granato has come in. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. I know everyone obviously talks about how good the team is, but I feel like Granato, because he's more of a quiet leader, he's not your Lindy Ruff, always, out there doing things. I feel like he's just so reserved in his approach to things that he doesn't get the credit he deserves for how incredible this team is and just the turnaround that the entire team has had since Kruger. I mean, under Kruger, this team looked dead and gone and boring and losing everything and just no excitement. And what he's been able to do in his short tenure already has been incredible. And outside of that, speaking of that is also Greenway being brought in and what he's been able to do since being a Buffalo Sabre. And it's kind of to the point you were just making. Not only is his offense picking up since being on the Sabres, which hopefully he will continue to grow as a young player, having an entire offseason with Granato and the Sabres, but I love him for this team. I love his size and exactly what you were just saying. Someone to stick up for someone like Skinner who's chirping. Greenway might be that guy. And I mean, he's that bigger power forward, fourth line, plays incredible defense, and at the same time, the Sabres have found a way to unlock a little bit of offense back in his game that he hasn't done in all season. He's already pretty much crushed all of his season stats this year on offense since just being with the Sabres since the trade deadline. So he was an incredible trade accusation by the Sabres, and hopefully he can continue his development and be a big part of this team next year.
Yeah, again, I don't want a fighter. I just need a big-bodied guy that's going to finish your checks and is going to be the one. I'm not even talking about like a Ryan Reeves or somebody like that who's still been known as a fighter. Just a bigger body guy that's, it could be Greenway, but with the offensive ability he has, I don't know if I want him to do that. I need like a fourth line guy that can just come in and be that steady presence back there that's going to stick up for his teammates and you're not going to want to mess with. And if that's a sixth defenseman also. So it's somebody, but this whole offseason is going to be very, very interesting. And what also is interesting is the BSC update here. I am up 2236.05 to 1954.22. I just squeaked past you in these two games, but monster numbers here. I put up 26.5. You put up 24.5.
I mean, given my team in shambles, I will take it.
Are there any changes to your shambled team, though?
I can't, I just can't pull the trigger on Middlestat right now while he is, he's doing so incredible. I'm going to keep my superstition to myself and leave him off my team. I'll run with Greenway, who's putting up some pretty decent numbers himself, and that incredible one-handed goal we got to see might be arguably one of the best goals of the entire season by any Sabre, so I'll keep him.
I was going to say, your jinx of your third forward might be, reversing itself now, because you had Olsen for a while, then you drop him and he's doing good. You had Middlestat for a while, you drop him and he's doing good. Greenway was starting to do good once you added him, so I think you might have turned his season around.
I'll take it.
But yeah, I'm also going to keep my my
Stack
4
team.
or 5 guys too. I'm going to keep rolling with them because they're doing very well. So, Phil, this might be one of the last times we do it, but wildcard watch, because they're still in it. They're one of 2 teams that are currently not in a wildcard spot that are still alive going into the final week of the season. Florida and New York, both 80 games played, both 91 points. They can max out at 95. Florida's got Toronto today, Carolina on Thursday. New York has Washington today, Montreal on Wednesday. Then in third place is Pittsburgh, 1 point behind, 80 games played, 90 points. They have Chicago on Tuesday and Colorado on Thursday. They can max out at 94 points. And then sit in fourth place, the last team remaining in the Eastern Conference, 78 games played, 85 points. They can max out at 93. They got New York Rangers, who they defeated on Monday. And they got the New Jersey Devils, who they also defeated recently on Tuesday. They got 4 games in the next 5 days. It's going to be a grueling finish, but let's get to 90 points. When's the last time they had 90 points? Finish on a hot streak here. They're 5-1-1 in their last 7. Let's get to 90 points, boys.
I mean, looking at who Florida, the Islanders, Pittsburgh have to play, there's definitely a loss potential in every single one of their remaining schedules. It's just a weird bummer that the Sabres also have just 4 games left instead of 2. I wish everybody had 2, and we could just kind of, just be at that point in the season, seeing these other teams have just 2 games left and the Sabres still have to play 4. Like you said, 4 games, 5 days, 2 of them against teams with over 100 points is going to be difficult. Like you said, they did just beat both of those teams, so it's possible, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Levi 2 more times, and I think you'll see UPL the other 2, is my guess. I think those are going to be... Maybe Anderson because he's probably going to retire. Maybe they'll give him...
Columbus.
Maybe the Ottawa start, because finish his career and
that's fair.
The team that he played the most of his career time, and
home.
A home game.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. And then give Levi the Columbus game. That's probably what it would be.
I love it.
But Phil, on our next show, we will cover the Rangers and the Devils game. So we'll move on to the Buffalo Bisons here, Phil. It's going to start bad, but it's going to finish good. Friday, game 1, because remember, it was so rained out. They did get 5 of the 6 games somehow in this series. It's just unbelievable. This spring weather is horrible. Game 1 on Friday, lost 3-1 in 7. Game 2, lost 9-5 in 7. Saturday, lost 13-4. And then that was their only single game in 9 innings. And then on Sunday, they did the sweep. Game 1, 2-1 in 7 innings, and game 2, 2-1 also in 7 innings. So they finished slow, but then they dialed it in and swept the Sunday series.
It's very early. So
very early.
I feel like for the baseball season, even I don't know, any season, I guess, but baseball and NHL, baseball more than anything, you pretty much say it's very early until June, maybe July, somewhere in there, where it actually gets going and you have some numbers and some stats and some games and some kind of consistency. But so far, with it being so early, I'm trying not to be overly concerned about too much here. But
remember though, Phil, this year with the split season, they're
true.
I would say early ends by the end of April probably now, but for the full season, I agree. It's probably June, but since they split it in half, you probably got to get in your groove by May.
That's fair. I mean, the biggest thing seeing just all of these games is the offense, and it's the biggest concern about that is simply their roster looks decent, where they really shouldn't have humongous holes in their offense. That is, they should be scoring more than they are, and B, we were looking forward to a kind of revitalized offense from what they had last year. It was a lot of low-scoring wins last year if they got the win at all. And this year, we were just really excited for the roster. It looked really solid. Overall, they're doing okay, but so many already very low-scoring games, and it's concerning to the point of it's very early, so it's I don't know, it's hard to take too much stock in what's happening, especially I guess I'll ask you that in a second, but seeing, again, these 2-1 wins. I mean, 13-4 loss, 9-5, loss, and then 3-1 loss. So you're not scoring, and you need to score more than they are. I know the pitching kind of blew up 2 of those games, 13 runs against and 9 runs against, but at the same time, a 3-1 loss, you can't really have that. And even these wins, you're just lucky your pitchers were able to give up only 1 run twice because you only scored 2. I want the offense. I'm looking for a lot more from the offense than 2-1 victories in this series. It's just not a great start for them. And again, it's very early, so it's hard to take too much kind of panic in it. But I guess the other question for you real quick would be pitchers or hitters. Traditionally, what seems to start slower?
Usually, isn't it the pitchers that start slower? Because
I would have thought so
they're
as
just
well.
not all dialed in yet. Because some of these guys, I know some of them were up with the big league club and then they got sent back down to the minor league for their training camp. But a lot of the pitchers aren't dialed in until 3 or 4 starts in. But it seems like, at least with the Bisons, a lot of these guys are dialed in, ready to go. It's just, it seems like a bit of a reversal this year.
Yeah, the hitting is just not there yet. And again, I'm not panicking. They got plenty of season left, and hopefully the hitting can start to pick it up. But that is the biggest concern coming out of this series. I mean, I'm happy they were able to get some wins in there, but 2-1 victories are not the best kind of victory you can get.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the biggest issues with the hitters so far is you're getting production from the top of your order. I mean, Barger's hitting 320, Bernard's hitting 286, Spencer 333, Otto Lopez 333. It's just the bottom of the barrel guys like a Vinny Capri, one of your veterans. He's only hitting 176 so far. Cam Eaton, he's got 18 at bats. He's hitting 111. Clement, he's hitting 222. Schneider, 143. So it seems like a lot of the bottom of the tier or bottom of the lineup guys are just not producing and getting on base. So you're having to rely a lot on the top of your order. And when your bottom of your order guys aren't, getting on base, there's nobody on base to hit around. So I'm probably going to give them till the end of April, try to get this figured out. But I mean, when the top of your order's hitting and you just got to try to get the bottom of your order guys to get going. I mean, Tanner Morris, who was nice last year, he's hitting .059. So it's a lot of these guys just got to figure it out and move forward. But like you said, it's very early on. I think the biggest thing for me, it seems like, and again, this is only 8 games in, so a lot can change, but they have a starting rotation, Phil. And this is something that we were clamoring for all last year. Besides Pearson, they didn't really have a go-to starting rotation. And you had Lawrence go 5 innings on Friday. You had Thompson go 4 2/3 of an inning on the second Friday game. You had Francis, who started, went 3 innings pitched. Jurgen went 2 innings pitched. So that was more of a controlled bullpen game, I would call it. Even Berman, yes, your catcher, got in for an innings pitch. But then Sunday, Zulu went 3 innings pitched. He was unbelievable. And then the second game, you went bullpen because, you got off a Monday. So it seems like they're still figuring out who that 5th starting pitcher is going to be. And also, I'll give them a little bit of a pass here because their whole week was just pushed together. So I would like to see what it actually looks like in a full 6-game series, Tuesday to Sunday, without having any rainouts. Fingers crossed, because spring, again, terrible season. But I want to see what it actually looks like when you get a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday game, what the starting rotation looks like when all these players get to be able to groove, because a lot of times these guys were ready to play and then it get rained out, and ready to play and then the field conditions weren't ready. So, 5 games in a 3-day stretch. I want to see what it looks like when it's more spread out and what these guys can do.
Yeah, stats alone, it looks like Lawrence, Thompson, and Francis, as of right now, would be the top of your rotation. And then, like you said, I wonder if Zulu can sneak in there as a little bit more of a consistent guy. I know he's only played in 1 game and only had 1 start, but he was absolutely incredible in his 3 innings. So hopefully
stretch him
he's
out.
Another one that can kind of just be that 4th guy. And like you said, who is their 5th right now? I wouldn't say they have one necessarily. I think after that, it's been a lot of bullpen and even some long reliever guys. Like Hatch used to be a starter for them last year. This year, he's got 4 games already in him with 4 innings, so he's clearly not in that role as of right now. So it'll be interesting to see who they try to put in that role at some point. But like you said, I think they definitely have at least 3. Hopefully Zulu's the 4th. And that's more of a rotation than we saw all of last year. We had Lawrence and then maybe Hatch at times, and then absolutely nothing. So even having 3, potentially 4 as a rotation looks to be a good start. And like you said, all these games got thrown into doubleheaders, pushed really close together. So that doesn't give you at all a very good idea of what the rotation might look like, because that ends up being a lot of bullpen games with these games being back to back. It's just kind of what you're stuck doing with your pitching. So, a little bit interesting there, but not a great way to really analyze how they're doing the rotation. But it looks like they have at least potentially 4, or hopefully they find a 5th at some point.
So a series review and a player review. The series, you went 2-3, 14 runs scored, 27 runs against, but 13 of those 27 were in the Saturday game, and 9 of them were in the game 2 of the Friday series. So 2 bad games, a couple bad performances by the pitchers. The Saturday game, everybody threw out there, but Berman allowed 3 or more runs. So it was just a bad night by everybody. The game 2 and on Sunday, 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 run, 11 strikeouts, 2 walks. So it's in them, and like we say every time, baseball, you're going to have ups and downs all season. One game's not going to make or break your season, but you can't get too far behind in the standings if you want to try to capture that division title. We said it all last year. Bisons were in first place at one point, and then they went on this big losing streak and were trying to climb back in it. You can't be too far back when it really comes time to have the dog days of summer. So getting back to 4-4, winning those 2 on Sunday was huge for them. So player review, Lopez is off to a hot start in this series. He went 5 for 14, 4 runs scored, 1 RBI, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts on the season. Like I said, 333, 1 RBI. He's 4 strikeouts and 4 walks. Good K to walk ratio. Barger, he's hitting 320 on the year, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 9 strikeouts to 3 walks, though. That's something that I think he's got to figure out AAA, and I think he's going to improve as he goes, but he's striking out a hair too much. In this series, 4 for 13, like again, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 run. Not his best series, but again, maybe that's because it was so squished together. Horwitz, 4 for 11 this series, 1 run, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks on the season, 333, 5 strikeouts, 4 walks. Jurgen, not the best series, 2 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, gave up 5 strikeouts though on the season. He's got 4 innings pitched, 9 ERA, 8 strikeouts to just 1 walk. He is going to be an absolute monster when he dials in and doesn't cough up any runs. Zulu, unbelievable start to the season. 3 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts, no runs, I think just 1 walk. Unbelievable season start so far. 1 hit on that Sunday game. I think he's going to start getting stretched out more and more as the season goes, and I think you'll be able to see him because I think Toronto envisions him as either a long inning guy or a starting pitcher in that rotation. So I think they're going to stretch him out as much as they can, and probably by end of May, June, you're going to see him pitch in 5, 6, 7 innings. Pearson, again, not his best series, 2 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. When he's on, he's on. But when he's off, he's off. And a lot of that has to do with walks. He's got 8 strikeouts, 3 walks so far in the season. But that was our prospect and younger player review. We're going to try to do this every show because I think a lot of people that listen to this segment are more interested in, and based on the feedback from the past 2 years, are more interested on the development of the players than the actual results of the game. Because how many times, Phil, did we hear, oh, it doesn't matter, they're in AAA, they don't, wins and losses don't matter, it's the development, Phil, even though they're keeping score. If it didn't matter, why is there a scoreboard up there? That's what I always like to throw back there and ask. But BSC update, you outscored me this week, Phil. 17.5 to 15. So with that, I'll run through your players right now once I get it over to it. And we're going to game 8. You have Lopez, Horwitz, Talley, Zulu, and Pearson. I have Barger, Bernard, Capra, Lawrence, and Thompson.
I am making a change.
I am also, so let's see if it's the same player.
I would imagine it's the same player. So we just go into the coin immediately.
Just go to the insert coins a lot and chance a lot.
For those who don't know, Nathan Lucas is back on the Bisons. He was sent down in a move that I don't quite understand from the Blue Jays perspective, but that's all right. And that is the player that we're clearly both going for. What do you want, heads or tails?
Tails never fails.
He's going tails. It's up in the air for Sir Chanster. And, son of a bee, it's tails.
Oh, yeah. That means I'm dropping Capra. Give me Lucas.
I gotta start lying to you more often about these. I'm gonna drop Talley for now and add Brantley, who's hitting a lovely 429. I know it's only 5 games, but I'll take that over Talley's .091. So for now, I will take Brantley over Talley as well.
It's also a very smart decision because Talley right now is on the developmental list. And Phil, remember how last year we couldn't figure out what the heck it was? Yes. I figured it out because they did an interview with the general manager of the Bisons, I think on WGR before the season started. And the developmental list is they just send them down to do extra work. They don't travel with the team. They just do extra work to try to get their mind right. And I can't remember who he mentioned last year that went on the developmental list, but it gives them a break. They get to more fine-tune their skills. And it's another
Lawrence?
Added... It was Lawrence. No, Lawrence was down to AA a couple of years ago, wasn't it? I don't think he ever was on the developmental list. Okay. Was it Francis, maybe?
It might have been.
Somebody was on the developmental list, and we couldn't figure out what the heck it was. Well, that's what it is. It's them just more working with their training staff and their skill position players and skill position coaches and stuff down there. It's just another weapon in their tool bag that they can use to help develop and help further and work out of whatever jam some of these players in.
I like it. I like the idea, especially like we said, it's a developmental league. Obviously, we think they still care about wins and losses and, getting that trophy at the end of the year. But at the same time, it is a developmental league, so I like that is even an option for players and teams in general. I mean, it opens up a roster spot for someone else while that player works out their tough start to the season in this instance.
So next series is in Rochester, the wonderful team that tried to loan us their backup tarp that technically didn't really work. And it stinks because I think that Wednesday where they could have played, I think it was in the 60s. It was just the field conditions were just so bad, but they're 1-7, 22 runs scored, 43 runs against. I tried to find some players to keep an eye on, and really it's just Matt Adams, first baseman, 250. He's got 4 home runs already, 7 RBIs. If you can work around him, I think you'll be looking pretty good. And on our next show, we'll be able to cover the first 2 games because that Thursday game, all the Thursday games this year, except for a handful of them, Phil, are 6 p.m. starts, so we're not going to be able to squeeze those in.
I guess while we're talking about Rochester being last place at 1-7, we can also talk a little bit about the top of the International League. I know you mentioned that the Buffalo Bisons can't get off to a very slow start because some of these teams in the first half series are already off to incredible starts. There are 4 teams mainly that you're looking at. Norfolk is 7-1, Iowa is 6-2, Syracuse is 6-3, and Worcester sauce. How do you actually say it? Worcester sounds like they should be at the bottom, is 5-3. But the big thing with those 4 teams, especially Norfolk, I mean, Norfolk looks like already, I know it's extremely early and they're 7-1, but my goodness, their goal differential, their run differential is plus 35, far and away better than anybody else by a long shot. Iowa's at plus 13, Syracuse plus 13. Worcester is at plus 19, and the next highest is Omaha. They're 5-4 at plus 11. So those are the big heavy hitters. I mean, Norfolk sitting at 7-1 with plus 35. That is an insane run differential this early in the season. On the other side, Rochester is negative 21, and Buffalo is negative 11. Buffalo does have one of the worst run differentials so far early to start the season, but at least they're 4-4, so they're trying to fight through it with their record.
Yeah, it's going to be, I'll be very interested to see how their pitching staff, like I said, that's going to be the main thing that I'm going to be watching for besides the prospects this year, is what the rotation looks like and how well it performs. Because, I mean, my butt's on the ledge for how much I've wanted a starting rotation from last year as well. So if it does not work out, Phil, I'm going to have so much egg on my face because of what I've been clamoring for the past 2 years. I'm really hoping it's going to look pretty good and save that bullpen, and the bullpen's going to be lights out. I'm just 4-4 for a team that I've had high expectations. Again, it's only 8 games in. This series was all messed up. I mean, the first one was 3-game series. It's very early on, and we're probably going to say that all through April, but I'm just more interested to see how this team is able to use that 2-game sweep on that Sunday to carry it over to a team that's struggling right now 1-7 and be able to capitalize on it and go on a streak of like remember, if you go 3-3, 4-2, 5-1 in most of your series, you're going to be at the top of your standings. So let's start that off right now with the Rochester Red Wings. So, Phil, we'll move on to the next segment here. Buffalo Bandits, they were on bye, but everything pretty much went their way. And it was really just the one game. Rochester versus Albany. We needed Albany to win, and they did, 14-12. Buffalo is now just 1 win or 1 Rochester loss away from a first-round home game in the first round of the playoffs. And when it's a 1-game series in the first round, that's a huge, huge thing to have in Bandit Land. So win this Saturday or Rochester loses this Saturday, it's punch your tickets, and for all you season ticket holders, you already get your first one in the bank and ready to go. But it's something that is the next stepping stone that the Buffalo Bandits are looking for. Georgia continued their unbelievable stretch right now. Dobson and Lyle Thompson and the whole crew up top are just unbelievable. They beat Saskatchewan 13-9. But Phil, I think there's something you want to talk about in that Rochester Albany game.
Are you talking about the goals?
Yeah, that one.
So I was watching the end of this game. I really didn't know what to do Saturday night. I was just I had to work Saturday, which was a bummer. And then it was Saturday night and there was nothing I really cared to watch at the moment. And I remembered that game was on. I was like, sure, throw on the fourth quarter. Let's see how it's going. Albany was up, I think 12-10 at that point, which obviously I was pretty happy about because we don't want Rochester to win. And they ended up winning by 2. And the last 2 goals that Rochester gave up would have Bandits fans going absolutely insane. The first one was a pretty easy save by Hartley, and he went to scoop the ball up that was right inside the crease. He literally had it in his stick, and instead of just calmly corralling it, he just accidentally launched it back into play, went right to Albany. Albany very quickly had a few passes and had a goal. Obviously, just a pretty simple goalie mistake. They happen, but if it was Matt Vince, everybody would be, kicking him off the team and then some. And then to make matters worse on poor Hartley, Albany shot a ball when there was literally, I think, 2 seconds left on the shot clock from way out at the restraining line. It was a ridiculously far shot. Pretty much everyone had ran off the field. Even the player who shot it was almost at the bench. He was pretty much running off the field as well, and it just happened to be a very long bounce shot and bounced awkwardly, and Hartley missed it. It went in. And that alone, everybody is, again, calling for Vince's head, and he'd be off the team. And on top of that, the league ended up reviewing it because it was under 2 minutes to see if the goal had actually gone in before the shot clock expired. By the view they were showing at home and what the announcer said, it was not remotely close. The shot clock had clearly hit 0, and then the ball went in. I'm not talking like it's near the line even that it hit 0. It was bouncing pretty much before the crease by the time it hit 0. It was not, in before the shot clock, and it was extremely obvious. It was not even close. And then the refs came back, and by the announcers' interesting, I guess, confusion, they, called the goal a goal, and that ended up being the 2-goal swing that Albany needed to win the game. And that one alone, I would have also been asking for the refs' heads. I don't understand. I hope at some point IL Indoor or somebody writes something about that goal and what happened. I don't know if it was one of those situations where what we see at home is a little bit different than what they see at this stadium. I know the Bandits had a goal similar to that at some point. I forgot which one it was, but it was like the shot clock and game clock are slightly off from what you see at home versus what you can see at the field. But even the announcers saying that it was off, even on replay, I don't really understand how that would work. So I don't know. I'd hope somebody gives some kind of description of what happened there, because it did not look remotely close. It wasn't the game-winning goal, but still would have been very upsetting if you are Rochester.
Yeah, I went to bed early, so I'm happy I woke up to that message, and also the message that Rochester lost. It was a very interesting morning of mixed emotions, where it's another weird call in the NLL, but you also got the result you wanted, so you weren't fighting it too much? Question mark.
Yeah, pretty much. And also, while watching the game, I like Albany. I think we've talked about it before, but their jerseys are great, and I really like their shiny face mask. It's a good time. It's a good look.
They do have a very good look. Very good look.
They're
I love the name too.
Not
Firewolves,
the best team, but they did what we needed them to do. Hopefully,
yeah, they're on their way.
Hopefully, they just lay their lacrosse sticks down when Buffalo comes to town.
There you go. It's the final game of the season. Next week, we'll dive into it more on the Friday show, but Philly is in Toronto. Root for Philly. George is in Albany. That game really doesn't matter a ton. Maybe root for Albany, so the red-hot Georgia Swarm stay out of the playoffs. And then Banditland, you get another game versus New York and Jeff Teat, and that's a game you really want to go to see the Jeff Teat, Dane Smith rivalry, which isn't really a rivalry because I guess they're good friends. So yeah, it's we'll dive more into that on our Friday show. But Phil, final segment here, real quick. And they typically go quick unless we dive more into it. But Rasmus Dahlin is our BSC Weekly MVP. There's no really reason to sugarcoat this one. He had an unbelievable 2-game stretch here. He's had an unbelievable season. 1 goal, 3 assists, 3 hits, 4 block shots, 1 insane game-saving goal where he just extended his stick out because Levi was on the other side of the crease. I don't know how he did that. And then the other one, unbelievable. I understand and I appreciate how incredible of a stick handler Rasmus Dahlin is, not just for a defenseman, but for a hockey player in general. The moves he pulled off against those Carolina players. Carolina's one of the best teams in the league, and you had those players looking like they were playing pee-wee hockey against NHL players. My God. And then the slide pass to Casey Middlestad, where all he had to do was just put a stick on it. Unbelievable the skill this guy has, and he's still only 22, 23 years old. he's not even in his prime yet, and he's not even where defenders are when they hit their stride. He's just still growing into it. He's going to even better next year. He's a freak, Phil. He's a freak.
It's a good thing that Buffalo was terrible for a little while, and they were able to get
thank
him.
you.
At least one of them is some of their terrible seasons are starting to pay off a little bit. And even seeing Owen Power and his growth, but not only just that, but going back to Dahlin, but like having Power be able to watch what Dahlin has turned into and having both of them be first overall draft picks, come into the league at an extremely young age, be able to kind of play off each other and their own development. I mean, having that immediate leadership of someone who went through exactly what you're currently going through for Owen Power is going to be so great for his development. And even the Dahlin, going back to that game-saving save that he made, that immediately led to a goal on the other end. So it wasn't even just he made the save, it was literally a 2-goal swing, because on the exact next play, the next offensive opportunity they had after that save, the Sabres went up, scored, and that was the game-winning goal. So right there, you're either losing that game 4-3 or you're winning that game 4-3, and it was all because of that incredible save and just what he does for this team. Like you said, his development, what he's become. I mean, my goodness, he is an absolutely incredible defenseman and just overall NHL talent.
So congrats to back-to-back Buffalo Sabres, Rasmus Dahlin, MVP for the BSC this week. So Phil, anything else to this show before we shut it down for a work week and then a monster Friday show with a huge playoff seeding implications for the Buffalo Bandits? We got a series with the Buffalo Bisons and then a massive swing here with the Buffalo Sabres, who are still alive, final week of the NHL season.
Other than the fact that I'm happy the Bills did not sign OBJ to that ridiculous contract.
Yeah, good Lord.
No, that's all I got.
Yeah, they don't even have the money, and I don't know, a guy with one
does?
knee is going to be making $18 million. Jesus, I guess that's what happens when you have a team that technically doesn't really have a quarterback right now. I mean,
so if you don't have a quarterback, why are you giving a wide receiver a 1-year extremely expensive contract?
Maybe he's going to be the next quarterback.
Okay.
Maybe that's
he's made a few good passes in his career.
They are the Ravens. They don't run a traditional offense. They're still in the Stone Age, Phil.
That's fair. They run an offense.
They do. They just run. That's all they do. But on our next show, we got 2 Sabres games to go over. Hopefully they are still alive when we're recording on Thursday. But, it's real close, Phil. It's real close. We got a couple of Bisons games and then the Bandits New York preview on our Friday show. So please come back and listen to us there. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow along with us on Facebook and Instagram at Buffalo Sports Collective and on Twitter at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube. And make sure you leave us that review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.